Hi everybody, thank you for listening in. Welcome to the weekend analysis, and this will be for the upcoming week of the 12th of August 2024. Now, where are we right now at the markets? I think that's everybody's question, right? Did we see a potential bottom in the markets last week? What's going to happen going forward into next week? I think that's what is on everybody's mind at this present moment. Okay, so let me just share with you into perspective where I think we are going at this present moment. So let me zoom in right over here, right? You saw that the market had a very, very, very big drop, right, on Monday, and that was because of a couple of reasons, right? Firstly, because Japan is starting to raise interest rates. That is one of the first issue. And the second one, obviously, is Nvidia, right? They announced that their chips would actually be delayed, right? That is one of their key chips they're actually developing, and that would actually be delayed. So that had an impact, right, on Nvidia, and hence an impact on the markets on a whole. Now, we also have earnings, last week and this week as well, earnings going forward. So that's something that obviously will be impacting the markets in the near term as well. So interestingly, when the markets opened really, really low on Monday, I actually added some small positions. The reason is because I felt it was ridiculous, right? Really ridiculous that the market was down so much. In fact, I think the Nasdaq, if you look at the pre-market, was down close to around 5.5%. That's ridiculous. That is very close to like a COVID kind of situation, right? So the markets actually rebounded all the way back, at the end of the week, at the highs of the previous week, right? So actually, the entire 6% drop was erased in 1 week. That was a really, really good sign. So I think it's very, very clear where we are at this moment. Let me just do this openly for you. Right? I'm going to plot a descending trend line here. I think this is where the markets is headed in the near term. Okay. There is a potential chance, right, that the market could actually form a bottom. I think I would say it's around 50-50. Okay, but this week you will note Wednesday we have this CPI numbers. That's really very important on Wednesday. Couple of things that I think the market could potentially be moving towards. Okay, the typical correction which I think that we are in would form this kind of A, B, C wave and then rebound, and that is actually the bottom of the market. So there are two things that I think that could be. So this is the first potential pattern that we are in. Right, essentially we saw this wave, this number 1 here, we hit a high at number 2, we formed a bottom here at number 3. So let me just drag number 3 here, somewhat like this, it looks something like that, all right. And then number 4, it's where we hit, it's where we start to break out, and number 5 is that the lower high is where you want to be really buying right over here. So this number 5, I think, is one that we need to really look out for. Right, if the markets rebound above the 50-day moving average, that is typically the number 5 kind of pattern. Now, let me just erase everything. Another potential, pattern that we could actually be forming is this pattern, right? So this is the A, right? This is the 1, and this is the 2, right? So this is the 1, right? And then 2 will be potentially hitting the descending trend line, maybe next week or something like that. And then 4 is where 3 is where you get the big wave down, 4 is the rebound, and then 5 is the lower high. So we could potentially see that as well. So that is just, a potential scenario, meaning that the lows that we saw right here in the markets last week is not the low. The low will form a high first and then form another low, and that could potentially bottom, let me guess, maybe around October, just before or slightly after the election period in November, maybe. So nobody knows, right? We just got to keep our eyes open, keep our options open. But if we do see names rallying, next week as well, that could actually be a relatively good sign for the markets. This is S&P 500. Now, Dow Jones also very similar, right? Nasdaq even similar as well. But Nasdaq, I think Nasdaq is very oversold, right? You see the Nasdaq really forming this wave down last week, right? That wave down. I think Nasdaq, also, right, could potentially bottom here. I'm not too sure. Also, you could form, that kind of wave pattern, that kind of thing, right? The 3 wave down, number 4, and then number 5, right? So the number 3 wave has not taken place yet in the Nasdaq. Now, we have not seen a long correction in Nasdaq for a while, right? The last time we saw that was around here, right? There was a rolling correction around August period, right? But this, it seems to me like a faster decline, like a snapback kind of boom kind of rebound. That's just my guess. Okay, so I'm actually in favor of the first scenario, right? Or rather than the second scenario. I think that market could potentially already been bottom out. That's just my guess. But obviously it depends on the CPI numbers this week as well. So Nasdaq is now an oversold. Many names are starting to look oversold. If you look at the weekly chart, it looks like we still have a bit more room to go. But we also retested this 50-week moving average, and it held very strongly here with a green candle here. So 50-week moving average is very important because on an uptrend, right, the 50-week moving average, you can see going back to history, right, act as a very strong support point. So the last time we bounced off the 50-week was over here, and now it seems like we are bouncing it off over here as well. So I think we're still quite early in the bull market, right? I still think that the market has more room to run to the upside. But then again, I think you need to be very selective going forward as well. Now, the collapse in the markets obviously has been because of this VIX. And if I go to the weekly chart, you will see that we have this long candle right over here, right? The VIX tried to push up on Monday on a lot of fear, but closed the day kind of lower. So, we've seen this so many times, right? I've seen this so many times in the markets, being in the markets for close to more than a decade, right? I've been in the markets for about 12 years, 12, 13 years. So I've seen this so many times, right? And nowadays, I don't really worry. In fact, I was quite excited, right? That the markets are really finally coming down after a long period of time. So, but I think VIX could bounce this week, right? If you look at the stochastic, we are oversold, and VIX could actually bounce near the 50 moving average. So I do think that markets would might potentially hit lower next week, Monday, Tuesday, and then maybe CPI. Then we could actually see a bounce in the market. So I think we will start the week potentially a bit weaker because there is CPI this week on Wednesday. I think that's a very key one to really take note this week. Okay, the collapse in the market has obviously been because of the the Fed. They think that they will be dropping interest rates in September, so that's something to watch. The interest rate has really dropped quite a bit, right? From about 5%, right, last year. Now it dropped to around 3.6%. That's close to a 1% drop, right? 1.5% drop, which is a very rapid drop in my opinion. So dollar index is also starting to decline. The reason is because there's a strength in the Japanese yen, right, which has led to a dollar decline. Okay, I want to cover a couple of names this week, and obviously, I want to point your attention to the large cap names, right? Firstly, Nvidia. So, how do you know if the market has bottomed? I think that's a question on everybody's mind. My sensing is that you got to watch the large cap technology companies, right? When they start to bottom, when they start to trade back above their 50-day moving average, that's where the market's actually potentially bottom. So Nvidia looks like it has still a bit of room to go to the downside. And Microsoft. Now, Microsoft, I think, is a buying opportunity here. That's just my view. I started buying Microsoft. The reason is because this is an area of huge resistance, support right over here, right? Huge support here, and Microsoft essentially is neutral for 2024. So I think it's a buying opportunity here. Microsoft looks really very interesting here. But then again, right, still in the downtrend, so just take your time. Don't really start to buy so heavily. Google also, right? A buying opportunity. Now, this was my lines for last week. I kept it on. I think Google as well, right? Very strong buying opportunity as well. Very oversold. Apple rebounded very strongly again, but I think Apple will continue to decline. The reason is because we have filled that gap, right, last week. So Apple, I think, can continue to decline and then, rebound again to the upside. That would be a better opportunity. Oracle, right? I talked about it last week. I say, hey, watch for that bounce of this support. And we saw this bounce very strongly with a strong reversal candle, right? With a bullish engulfing candle as well. Very strong reversal. I think Oracle looks really good here. Buying opportunity in my opinion as well. Now, some names that reported very strong earnings last week. First of all, we have the Trade Desk, right? TTD. A very nice earnings report last week, and price really back above the 15-day moving average. Now, this is a very tricky stock to trade because it's very sideways. But I think eventually, right, over the next couple of years, you would see a much higher price, right, to TTD at this moment. So very nice, right? Very nice move back above the 50-day moving average. Very strong earnings gap. I think one to watch going forward. Now AKAM, right? I think it's one to watch in the cloud space. Why? Because very strong earnings. Look at this earnings move here, right? This gap up here on earnings. Looks like price has really formed that higher low and hasn't really been affected that much in the market decline. So this one really, I think has really started to rebound. If you look at the weekly chart, it looks really nice as well, right? Very good volume on the weekly chart. And you can see very clearly, right, it has really formed higher lows on a weekly basis as well, right? This is the first low, then we have a higher low, which is a sign of a potential reversal in my opinion. So very nice. Exxon Enterprises, which has been on watch list for a long time. This one very nice, right? Very nice move above this huge resistance area. Very solid earnings as well. Look at the volume that really came in. Highest volume ever, right, in 3 years. So very, very nice. I think this one goes a lot higher here. Now, a name to watch a bit closer, I think, is ClearPoint Neuro. This is a stock that not many people know about. But I think it's really interesting medical stock. Now, look at the weekly chart. You will see that, finally, right, we have broken out of this long-term descending trend line. Right, and price seems to be moving to the upside. I'm not sure what's happening. There could be a potential acquisition. Really, I'm not sure. But really, I think price is starting to bottom out here on a weekly basis, and this one could really double, triple very, very fast if price moves to the upside here in ClearPoint Neuro. Next one here is ServiceNow. I like this stock a lot as usual. Very nice earnings report, right, we had this week on ServiceNow. Their growth is really looking really, really good, and somehow my charts are not loading. I'm not sure why. Let me see. Yeah, I think TradingView has some issue. Let me try to load the chart again. There it is. There it is. That is Cloudflare. That's wrong. Okay, ServiceNow. Yeah, there we go. ServiceNow, right? Again, very nice earnings this week as well. Last week, sorry, very nice earnings. And price is still below this key resistance, but then again, very, very strong momentum. Look at this nice crossover in the stochastic index. So next week will be very interesting here in ServiceNow. Cloudflare, right? Very nice earnings, right? Push much higher here on the Monday. There was a Monday this week. I think this one is just waiting for a breakout, right? Waiting for a breakout above the descending trend line. I think this one will benefit from all the issues, right? CrowdStrike has been facing. So, looking very interesting as well. So I think names with good earnings will go through corrective periods, but they will rebound even stronger than other names. So I think some of these names you want to watch closely, right? I think they could be very viable opportunities in the near term as well. Alright, so with that, I just want to wish you a very good week ahead. Please take care and stay safe. I think markets are still, moving in the downside, so we just want to be a bit careful here. But I think eventually, if the markets can move up, it'll be a really great opportunity for all of us on the whole. So thank you, and I wish you a very good week ahead.